Alright, so I have worked at one of the biggest international law firms in the world, whilst keeping myself in great shape, having minimal stress, and most importantly, genuinely enjoying my life. But I'll be honest, it wasn't always like that, because during the first 6 months or so of my legal career, the work, it really consumed me. I mean, I was working these long hours, but I was barely exercising, I was eating crap, and I just generally felt unhealthy and exhausted all the time. At first though, I kind of just thought that was the deal, that if you wanted to do well in these corporate jobs, you basically just had to wave bye-bye to your health and happiness. Thankfully for me though, I didn't accept that that was right and that that should be the position. And over the years now, I really have developed a system that has allowed me to thrive both in my job as well as my personal life. And so in this video, I wanted to share how targeting 4 areas of my life got me from being someone that was slowly putting on weight when I first started my job and was worried about making even the smallest mistake, to now being someone that genuinely is healthy, happy, and has real balance in their life. Okay, the first area that we need to target is our health. And our health has surely got to be the biggest priority in our life, because without our health, everything else falls away. I mean, we literally have nothing. And I know that that might seem a little bit obvious, but when I think it comes to people in corporate jobs, our health is really something that is neglected and is not prioritized in any way. I think the first thing that we just need to try and do here is have a bit of a mindset shift. And I know what it's like. When you're in these jobs and they are super intense and pressurized, they can just completely consume you. But it really doesn't matter how tough or pressurized your job is. Your health is something that you need to look after and prioritize. Okay, so once we've made this mindset shift, it really then just is about implementing things that you probably already know. But for me, there are 4 key pillars of our health that we need to be targeting. So the first is all about diet, and it really does baffle me just how crap people's diets are at the office. And again, I get it, like time is of the essence and often you are just gonna wanna grab something as quick as possible. The honest truth is that sandwich and a bag of crisps or whatever other food you might have that's got no real nutritional value is not gonna be doing your body or your mind any favors. My big recommendation here would be to try and meal prep as much as your food as possible, because then you can really control what you are eating and make sure it is healthy and good for you. I also bring in a ton of snacks into the office, so I bring in packs of chicken, I bring cottage cheese, protein bars, and yeah, it looks a little bit weird me being at my desk and just downing a pot of cottage cheese, but whatever, it's high in protein and it's good for me. If meal prepping is just too much for you and you really don't think you've got time for that and you're gonna just get food from a canteen or go outside and buy something, I would then just really recommend trying to make sensible decisions with what you're buying and try to target high protein, clean meals. Okay, so the second area of our health that we need to be targeting is exercise. I've had days where I've been very busy and have barely moved from my desk and have literally done about 1,000 steps, which I measure on my Garmin watch. But that really is shocking behavior and is a sure way to make you feel crap and a sure way for you to put on a lot of weight, which we obviously don't want to happen, but I've seen it happen so often. You know, one thing that I often find funny at a law firm is when young trainees, they start at the firm and they get their picture taken on, say, day one. And in that picture, they often look quite slim, energized, and really raring to go. But then you fast forward 5 or 10 years of that person working at the firm, and you see that they're still using that picture, but you then see them in real life, and you realize that they don't look quite the same, and they've often put on a lot of weight and just generally look a little bit disheveled and not so good. And that is clearly something that we want to be avoiding, and being active is a sure way to avoid that. And before you say you don't have time, you do have time. You just have to find the time. There is a saying that you never regret a workout, and honestly, it is just so true, because exercise, it releases those good endorphins, it does help to minimize stress, it makes you sleep better. And when you're exercising, you will keep the weight off more easily and you just feel better and feel more confident. So exercise is again something that we have to be doing. Okay, the third area of our health that we need to target is all around stress management. And if you want another giggle, I would go to a law firm's website and filter for the partners of the firm, who are the most senior people at the firm, and have a look just how many of them are gonna be bald, because I would bet it's a very high percentage. And sure, some of that will be genetics, but some of that has really got to be down to stress. And again, I know what it's like in these jobs. Stress is something that can easily occur because you might be working very long hours, or you might be having to manage multiple matters for very demanding clients, or you might just have some dick supervisor who moans at you for every apostrophe is out of place. But it is easy for stress to occur. But stress, it really is a silent killer on our health. And so we need to learn how to manage it as best as possible. And exercise and diet that we've already talked about will massively help alone for stress. But one other thing that I think we can do for stress is really all around our mindset towards things. So I would just advise trying to not be so hard on yourself and just lower the bar a little bit and realize that we are humans and that it is okay to make a mistake here or there. A final thing I would just mention here on stress is that personally for me, I do try to meditate most mornings. So I use the Waking Up app by Sam Harris, and I know meditation is not going to be for everyone, but personally I do find that it does help me feel a little bit calmer and a little bit more relaxed. And so I really would advise that people at least give it a go and see whether it is something that does work for them. And then the fourth area of our health to target is sleep. And sleep is again so important. And I think it is one of the biggest things that we can do for our energy levels, for our productivity, and just our general well-being. And so my advice here is simple, but it really is just to really try to target getting between 7 to 9 hours of sleep every night. And getting that range of sleep, I really do think is so beneficial, and again, is something that you need to be doing. Okay, so the second area of our life that we're going to be targeting is around taking control of your time. Because when I was working at a law firm, one of the things that used to annoy me the most was just feeling like I had no control over my time. For instance, some days I would have like a really quiet day where not much was going on, and I'd be thinking that I was going to leave the office pretty early and I'd make plans for the evening, and then at say like 5 p.m. a request would come in from a client about some work that of course had to be done that evening because all client work is so bloody important. So the first thing I would recommend is to really try to audit your schedule as much as possible. And so what I mean here is that firstly, I would put into your schedule all of the non-negotiables in your life. And for me, I think for most people, that's going to be your work. That's going to be your big block of time. I'd also put in your commuting to work. I would then put in sleep, because obviously you're not going to be doing anything during that time. And then since we said we're going to be exercising pretty much every day, I would also block out exercise into that schedule. And then once you've done that, you can really actually see where the pockets are in your schedule for time to do other things. And then you can start to prioritize what you think are the things that you want to be doing and slot those in the spare spots that you have. Next, I would say to really try and utilize your lunchtime. And I don't know what it is about these jobs, but I think so often people just think that they can't actually take their lunchtime and they just eat something quickly at their desk and just forget that they are literally legally required to have an hour break for lunchtime. So do not be afraid to use your lunch break. And I would even advise blocking out that hour, or you could even block out a couple of hours and then use that time to do something that you want to. So for me, I used to regularly actually go to the gym during my lunch break and get that exercise in there. But that time is your time, so use it. The third thing I would advise to do is utilize also working from home, because now we are in this day where I'd imagine a lot of you will be able to work from home. And when you are working from home, you are saving that commute time. So again, utilize it to do exercise, get some air, go for a walk, whatever again, but utilize that time also. And then the fourth thing I would advise here is all around the power of focus. Now, when I was working at a law firm, I was regularly working late into the evenings. And so I tried to actually start to treat it as a bit of a game to try and get out of the office as early as possible. And I didn't do that by not working as hard or lowering the quality of my work. I tried to just do it by really focusing on the task that I had. Because you probably know this, but there is a massive difference between doing 2 hours of really good focused work and 2 hours of work where you are completely distracted, scrolling on social media or whatever rubbish that you might do. And when you do that and you do focus properly, you can just get through so much more. And that then means you'll get through your task quicker and then you will have more time to actually be able to get out the office and do some of those other things that you want to be doing. Okay, so the third area of our life that we're going to be targeting is relationships, because we are social beings and we crave that social connection. And this is regardless of if you're an introvert or an extrovert. I mean, I'm more of an introverted person, but even I've realized just how important it is to have those social connections. But when we're in these corporate jobs, I think relationships is often something that we really do just neglect. I know I did, and we just don't make enough time for our friends and family. And something that I also think is very interesting here is that one of the 5 biggest regrets of the dying is that they wish they'd spent more time with their friends. And so my advice here really is simple, but it is just to make sure to carve out and make time for your friends, for your family, for the people that you care about most, because I 100% guarantee you will feel a lot better if you do. Okay, the fourth area of our life that we're going to be targeting is all around the pursuit of meaningful goals. Because I think if your life becomes defined by your job too much, I personally do think it just becomes a little bit of a hollow feeling. And if you're not one of those people and you really do just absolutely love your job and your job is your life, then fair enough, more power to you. But for most people, I think one of the easiest ways to feel those types of feelings is to try and set yourself some goals and challenges to work towards. So for me, for instance, I got this YouTube channel. So that's one of the biggest things that I'm working on at the moment. I'm having to try and learn loads of new skills and develop loads of skills in the process. And I've got lots of health and fitness goals. So I've got a lot of things that I work towards. But having those things, it really does just bring me so much more enjoyment. And my recommendation would also be to try and make those things challenging and things that do scare you a little bit, because growth ultimately occurs at the end of our comfort zone. And you really do get a massive sense of achievement when you work towards something that is tough, but then ultimately overcome those challenges and succeed in whatever you're doing. The final thing I wanted to finish with is that the real kicker to all of this is that none of these things need to come at the expense of your career. And in fact, it is the complete opposite, because targeting all of these things is actually going to massively enhance your performance at work. Also, if you are looking after yourself physically and mentally, you will naturally start to become more confident and feel good about yourself. And people, they notice when someone is looking after themselves, because it affects the way you carry yourself, the way you communicate, and definitely the way that people perceive you. And also, by constantly not being tired all the time, you're gonna have more bandwidth to actually build real relationships with people at work. And in a corporate job, often who you know is just as important as what you know. And so by having your life in order in all of these ways, you're gonna more likely be the type of person that people actually wanna work with, and more likely to be the person that is gonna get promotions at work. Hopefully you can now see that you don't need to choose between a great job and a great personal life, because if you do it right, one really does fuel the other. And really just trust me that when you are looking after yourself, you are not going to just enjoy your life more, but you will also be able to achieve way more at work than you ever thought possible.